Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. They say the quietest people have the loudest minds. This couldn't be truer for Sigma females, those rare introspective personalities who navigate the world with quiet intensity and a complex inner life that few ever get to see. As children, Sigma females aren't just different. They're enigmas wrapped in layers of self-awareness, curiosity, and a hint of rebellion. Did you know that only about 1% of the population is estimated to embody this elusive personality type? That's fewer people than who believe Bigfoot is real. But this scarcity also comes with a host of unique challenges. From grappling with authority to building painfully deep friendships, these young Sigma females live in a world that rarely understands them, and often they don't mind keeping it that way. Being a Sigma female as a child isn't just a story of independence. It's a journey through the quiet storms of early self-discovery and navigating the world with a depth that many adults can't even begin to understand. Here are 10 harsh truths about what it's really like growing up as a young Sigma female. Buckle up. It's a deep dive into the mind of the mystery kids among us. Number 1. They often feel like outsiders. From the start, Sigma females don't quite fit in. They often feel like they're orbiting the rest of the world instead of blending into it, watching everyone else dive into life while they analyze it from a distance. They're the kids who feel like they're on the outside, even when they're technically in the middle of everything. It's not that they don't want to be part of the group. It's just that their perspective is so different, it's hard to find a comfortable way in. For a Sigma female, this outsider feeling usually starts early. While other kids might be happily discussing the latest playground drama, she's probably wondering why everyone is so obsessed with it in the first place. There's a natural tendency for her to want more depth, even if she can't explain it. To her, things need to make sense beyond what's visible on the surface. This means she'll question things, hold back on jumping into the latest trend, and likely choose 1 or 2 friends over a whole crew. Most people just see this as her being a little odd or offbeat, not realizing that her brain is wired to crave a depth they might not even notice. The tricky part? Kids don't exactly hand out awards for introspection, and being the quiet or serious one on the playground isn't a ticket to popularity. A Sigma girl often ends up having to accept that her way of thinking might set her apart, like the one person in the cafeteria with a homemade quinoa salad while everyone else eats pizza. This outsider feeling is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives her a unique outlook on life. On the other, it can make her feel like an alien in a world of humans, secretly hoping there's another life form out there who thinks just like her. Number 2. Why becomes their natural introspective. For Sigma females, why isn't just a question, it's practically a way of life. From a young age, they're naturally introspective, wanting to dig beneath the surface of everything they're told. While other kids might simply accept answers, the Sigma girl's mind can't help but probe deeper. When adults give her rules or instructions, she doesn't just want to know the what or how. She wants to understand why it's necessary in the first place. And while this drive for understanding is rooted in curiosity, it often comes across as challenging or even rebellious. This need for depth is sometimes hard for adults to appreciate, especially when they're busy or just want compliance. A simple request like no TV until homework is done can turn into an endless stream of questions. Why can't I? Will my homework be worse if I watch TV first? Who decided that rule? This line of questioning, which might feel like second nature to her, can often come off as pushing boundaries or being difficult. What she's really seeking is an explanation that satisfies her need for logic and fairness. But it's easy for adults to misunderstand this as her being contrary or stubborn. These early misunderstandings can be frustrating for Sigma females who aren't trying to cause trouble but simply need to know more. When adults dismiss their questions or brush them off, it leaves them feeling misunderstood and even resentful. Instead of feeling encouraged in their curiosity, they often end up labeled as challenging. Over time, this can create a subtle tension, where she learns to hold her questions back, understanding that her desire to understand the world might not always be welcome. The burden of why becomes something she carries on her own, fueling her independent thinking but also isolating her in a world that too often values silence over inquiry. Number 3. Adult expectations are forced on them. Sigma females often carry an air of maturity and responsibility even as children, which quickly makes them magnets for adult expectations. From a young age, they seem so together that people assume they can handle things that other kids would never be asked to deal with. If their sibling is having a meltdown, guess who's expected to be the understanding one? If family conflicts arise, it's the Sigma girl who's praised for her level-headedness, who somehow becomes the emotional anchor, even if she's only 10. This isn't always as flattering as it might sound. Sure, adults might admire her calmness and self-sufficiency, but the praise often comes with a silent expectation. Handle things on your own. In reality, she's just a kid too, trying to make sense of life, and sometimes she really needs a break. But the mature label sticks, and before she knows it, she's shouldering responsibilities that no child should have to carry. The same qualities that make her seem like a mini-adult end up creating a wall between her and other kids. She can't fully relate to them, and they're likely just as puzzled by her as she is by them. What adults might see as grace under pressure often translates to early emotional burnout. If her friends are chatting about crushes or the latest cartoons, the Sigma female is probably thinking about life's bigger picture, because that's what she's been trained to do. She's more likely to worry about how to solve a family issue than which games to play at recess. And while adults pat themselves on the back for raising such a grounded kid, she's left wishing someone would let her just be a kid. It's like she's constantly cast as the responsible one in life's drama, but she never actually auditioned for the role. Number 4. Constant internal pressure for self-improvement. Sigma females often develop a high standard for themselves from a young age, setting an inner bar that's so impossibly high it would make even the most competitive overachiever break a sweat. They tend to hold themselves to standards that go far beyond what anyone else would expect, driven by a quiet but relentless desire for self-improvement. It's like they're running a lifelong race against themselves, where each finish line only moves further away the closer they get. This internal pressure isn't just about excelling in school or sports, it digs much deeper. A Sigma girl might be quietly critiquing her own behavior, analyzing her interactions, or replaying moments in her mind to see how she could have done better. It's as if she's her own drill sergeant, constantly pushing herself to refine, improve, and evolve. To most people, she might seem cool and composed, but behind the scenes, she's her own harshest critic. And let's be real, that little voice of perfectionism is never easygoing. It's the kind of critic that notices the tiniest slip-up, like not speaking up enough in class, and decides she should write an entire personal improvement plan to make sure it doesn't happen again. The thing is, she rarely gives herself a break. If she isn't careful, this relentless drive can become exhausting and feel more like self-punishment than self-growth. While other kids might shrug off a mistake with a laugh and go back to playing, she's more likely to be quietly processing it, figuring out what she'll do differently next time. Sometimes it's exhausting, even for her, but she doesn't know any other way. To her, it's not about competing with others. It's about becoming the best version of herself, a goal that's both motivating and a bit overwhelming. It's like she's training for the Olympics of self-actualization without ever realizing she's allowed to take a break. Number 5. Developing skepticism of others' motives. Sigma females are naturally observant, picking up on subtleties most kids wouldn't notice, which means they often develop a keen sense for people's motives early on. They can read between the lines, catch those subtle eye rolls, and sense when someone's saying one thing but meaning another. For them, social interactions can feel like a minefield of hidden meanings and mixed signals, making them both highly perceptive and, let's face it, a little skeptical. This superpower of spotting insincerity or hidden agendas sounds great, but it's also a double-edged sword. While other kids might take things at face value, Sigma girls can't help but see through facades, often doubting if someone's genuinely being friendly or just pretending. This early insight means that they don't trust easily, sometimes seeing danger in places where it doesn't actually exist. A seemingly simple playground offer to share a snack might set off an internal analysis. What does this kid want? Why are they being nice? What's in it for them? Their instinct for reading people can sometimes make them overly guarded, assuming that everyone has an angle or an ulterior motive. It's almost like they're tiny, unlicensed detectives watching out for motives that other kids haven't even heard of yet. But while this perceptiveness can protect them from manipulators, it also means they can miss out on good connections, brushing off potential friends as too good to be true. And while most people might laugh off a slight or brush off a weird vibe, Sigma girls are likely to internalize it, filing it under another reason to be careful. Growing up with this mindset can be lonely. While their instincts are often right, sometimes they'd probably benefit from being wrong just once, if only to let themselves relax. Instead, they go on scanning the crowd, side-eyeing the world, and keeping their hearts cautiously guarded. Number 6. Romanticizing solitude from an early age. Sigma females often discover early on that solitude isn't just a quiet retreat. It's where they recharge, think deeply, and explore their own ideas without interruption. This love for alone time grows quickly into something more profound, a kind of personal sanctuary. They don't just enjoy being alone, they see it as essential. While other kids are excitedly planning group hangouts, the Sigma girl is often happiest lost in a book, drawing, or diving into her own little world. But this early love of solitude has a hidden cost. It can lead her to romanticize isolation itself. It's not just that she's okay being alone, she genuinely prefers it. This independence is powerful, but it can start creating barriers she didn't intend to build. When alone time becomes her comfort zone, she's more likely to avoid group settings where she might feel out of place or drained. Social skills, teamwork, and group dynamics are essential learning experiences, but she may sidestep them simply because they don't offer the same peace she finds in solitude. This mindset can make it difficult for her to see the benefits of socializing. She might miss out on moments that teach empathy, collaboration, or just the pure joy of shared experience. Being alone feels safe and even romantic in its own way, a life filled with quiet reflections and deep thoughts. But in the long run, always choosing isolation over interaction can lead her to miss connections that might have surprised her, friendships that would have balanced her inner world with a bit of healthy chaos. So, while solitude is her home base, there's a fine line between peace and self-imposed loneliness. A part of her knows that the world has more to offer than her own company, but it's hard to break the habit when being alone feels just so much easier. Number 7. Teachers misinterpret them as disengaged. In a traditional classroom, Sigma females can appear completely disengaged, even though they're anything but. Teachers might see them daydreaming, doodling, or quietly zoning out, and assume they're simply indifferent or unmotivated. But the reality is that Sigma girls crave something beyond the standard curriculum, something that speaks to their deep curiosity and desire for meaning. When faced with rote learning or memorization, they don't see a reason to pour in their energy. It's not that they can't perform, it's that they feel like the material isn't worth their focus. This can lead to all kinds of misunderstandings. Teachers might label them as distracted or underachieving because they don't eagerly raise their hands or visibly participate. To many Sigma girls, though, classroom participation isn't a measure of learning. They're processing quietly, thinking things over at their own pace. They often need to find their own angles and applications for a topic before they can feel genuinely interested. Conventional teaching methods, ones that rely heavily on structure, repetition, and group activities, don't naturally suit them, and they won't pretend otherwise just to fit in. Instead of seeing this as a lack of effort, it's more a refusal to force themselves into a mold that doesn't feel authentic. In a system where students are often rewarded for compliance over creativity, Sigma girls can feel stifled, like they're only half showing up to school. While they may appear detached, their minds are often working overtime, building connections and ideas outside the constraints of the lesson plan. And so, they're left to navigate an academic world that rarely meets them halfway, managing to thrive in their own way, even if it goes unnoticed. Their brilliance isn't always measurable by grades or gold stars. It's hidden beneath a calm surface, waiting for the kind of challenges and freedom that truly engage them. Number 8. Unusual interests are alienating. From a young age, Sigma females tend to have interests that set them apart from their peers, sometimes in ways they don't entirely intend. While other kids might be excitedly discussing the latest pop star, trending games, or cartoon characters, Sigma girls are more likely to be absorbed in something entirely different. They might be fascinated by Greek mythology, dissecting the mysteries of the universe, or reading books that make other kids' eyes glaze over. To them, it feels natural to explore these big ideas, but it also makes connecting with their peers a challenge. This unique curiosity isn't something they can easily explain, and it often leaves them feeling like they don't quite fit. When they talk about the things that interest them, they can come across as eccentric or too serious for their age, making them feel out of sync with others. Imagine a third grader fascinated by existential philosophy. When she starts talking about the meaning of life, her classmates might look at her like she's from another planet. While other kids are content talking about the latest playground trend, the Sigma girl's world is filled with questions and ideas that are a little harder to share over lunch. This difference in interests can make her feel more like an outsider, as though she's speaking a language no one else understands. It's not that she doesn't want friends, it's that she finds it difficult to connect over the things everyone else finds fun or interesting. This can lead her to withdraw and find comfort in solitude, retreating into her own world where she feels at home. It's a bittersweet trade-off. Her unusual interests make her unique and thoughtful, but they also leave her navigating a world that doesn't quite get her. Number 9. Their ideas are often overlooked. Sigma females are often bursting with creativity and innovative thoughts. But when they're kids, those ideas frequently go unnoticed. Whether it's a unique solution to a problem in class or an unusual perspective on a project, their out-of-the-box thinking tends to be overlooked because it doesn't conform to traditional expectations. In a classroom where standard answers are valued, a Sigma girl's imaginative approach might be met with blank stares or polite nods, but rarely the enthusiasm or validation she craves. Imagine her excitement when she presents an unconventional idea, like suggesting a field trip to a local museum instead of a generic school event. To her, it's not just about going somewhere different. It's about fostering a deeper understanding of art or history. But instead of appreciation, she often receives responses that imply she's not being practical or realistic. Teachers may focus on the logistics and dismiss her creative thinking, while peers may roll their eyes, choosing to stick with the crowd-pleasing, safer options. This consistent dismissal can leave Sigma girls feeling undervalued and frustrated. Over time, they start to sense that their unique ideas are seen as distractions rather than contributions, leading them to second-guess themselves. When the classroom encourages conformity over creativity, it's easy for them to feel like misfits in a world that doesn't appreciate their distinct perspectives. The spark that drives their imaginative thinking can start to dim as they internalize the belief that their insights aren't worth sharing. This struggle often leads to a complex relationship with creativity. While they still generate innovative ideas, they may hesitate to voice them, fearing they'll just be brushed aside again. As a result, they might retreat into themselves, fostering a rich inner world filled with ideas, but rarely finding the validation they need to thrive in a more communal setting. The irony is that these unconventional thoughts have the potential to inspire and drive change, yet they often languish in silence, leaving Sigma girls wondering if anyone will ever truly see their value. Number 10. Emotionally intense friendships. For Sigma females, friendships are rarely casual. Instead, they dive deep into one-on-one connections that can be as beautiful as they are intense. While other kids may be satisfied with a large circle of acquaintances, Sigma girls prefer to nurture a few close relationships. They invest their emotions wholeheartedly, weaving a tapestry of trust, loyalty, and understanding. This profound level of connection can lead to incredibly enriching experiences, where both friends feel truly seen and understood in a way that's hard to replicate in larger groups. However, this emotional depth comes with a price. The intensity of their friendships means that when things go wrong, whether it's a falling out or simply drifting apart, the impact can be devastating. For a Sigma girl, losing a close friend feels like losing a part of herself, and the grief can be all-consuming. Unlike the typical ups and downs of childhood friendships, her connections are tied to her identity and sense of self. Each relationship is built on a foundation of vulnerability, and when it crumbles, it can leave her feeling exposed and raw. The emotional investment in these friendships can also be draining. While the bond is often rewarding, it requires significant energy to maintain the depth of understanding and empathy that Sigma girls naturally bring to the table. They might find themselves in a cycle of emotional give and take, where they pour their feelings into the friendship, often at the expense of their own well-being. If their friend is going through a tough time, the Sigma girl will likely absorb that emotional weight, sometimes neglecting her own needs in the process. Ultimately, the intensity of these friendships can create a roller coaster of emotions, filled with highs of deep connection and lows of painful loss. While she treasures the beauty of these relationships, she must also navigate the heartache that comes with their end, learning to balance her desire for meaningful connections with the need for self-care. As she grows, the lessons learned from these emotionally intense friendships will shape her understanding of love, loyalty, and the importance of setting healthy boundaries. Navigating the complexities of childhood as a Sigma female is a journey filled with unique challenges and profound insights. From their intense need for solitude to the depth of their friendships, Sigma girls carve out a path that often feels different from their peers. While their innovative ideas may go unnoticed, and their emotional investments can lead to both beautiful connections and heart-wrenching losses, each experience contributes to their rich inner lives. These young women learn early on that their perspectives are valuable, even if they sometimes feel misunderstood. As they continue to grow, these Sigma girls carry with them the wisdom gained from their solitary reflections and deep friendships, shaping their identities into something truly extraordinary. Their journey is not just about finding their place in the world, but also about embracing the unique qualities that set them apart. So if you've enjoyed exploring the world of Sigma females and want to dive deeper into topics that inspire and provoke thought, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going and celebrate the beauty of being different together. Thanks for watching, Jules. See you in the next video. Bye for now and stay blessed.